flight of the CrowsWing is Teardrop camping in the Picture Canyon area of Comanche National Grasslands, Colorado, June 2022. We finished our gate guarding job in Louisiana and drove to Amarillo to pick up our Teardrop. It was a long hiatus. With plans to switch trailers, we made arrangements to stay at the Walnut RV Park. We've stayed here before. They haven't minded us parking 2 trailers and doing projects at our site. When we arrived at our storage unit, we found the cover had blown off the trailer and it was covered in Texas dust. Everything else was exactly how we'd left it. As I felt the tug on my truck hitch, I also felt a little tug in my heart. It felt just like coming home. It took us 2 days to sort everything out and switch all of our gear. The only hiccup being difficulties in our water system, which you can read about in our blog. Soon, we had the E-Pro in storage and we headed north with the Teardrop into the wilds of Colorado. First stop, Picture Canyon in the Comanche National Grassland, where we found a nice dispersed campsite along one of the Grasslands dirt roads. Even though the site itself wasn't shaded, we chose this site for the cottonwood trees behind it, where we could sit in their cool shade. This became important when the temperatures began creeping up into the high 90s in the afternoons. Soon, the trailer was level and the campsite was set up. We chose not to set up or easy up, as high winds and storms were predicted over the next few days. A word to the wise: if you are planning on hiking in this area, the trails are poorly marked, and the trail map at the kiosk, although artistically rendered, is not very helpful. So, we were informed of the animals and the history of the area, but we wound up bushwhacking most of our hikes to find the trails. Fairy Duster. Our first hike was from our campsite to the cave spring. Along the way, we passed by this old homestead, now only home to rats and spiders. And maybe snakes. Even though long abandoned, it still had a garden. Coyote Gourd. The spring sprung from a pipe in the ground. In this dry area, it created quite an oasis of greenery, which gave us a pleasant place to sit and rest in the cool shade. Further up the valley, the trail passed some more ruins. By then, we were questioning why we began this hike so late in the day. After surveying the surrounding landscape, we decided it was time to turn back to camp.
Yep, here you are, high desert, and you're worried about getting your feet wet. Is that good? Alright, I'm following.
Overall, we did just under 4 miles in the first of our many hikes. Then the rains came. The next morning, we sat in camp, drank our coffee, and enjoyed what we began calling the Bird Show, starring the birds, with special appearances by the Blue Grosbeak. And also appearing, the Bullock's oriole. Apparently, the local water sources and greenery draw many birds to the area, only a few of which we were able to photograph and identify. The next morning, we were up early and on the petroglyph and arch trails. The horizontal markings have been translated to include solar, planting, and travel-related information. The South Canyon walls of Picture Canyon contain rock art, red and black pictographs, and human and animal petroglyphs that were likely made by the Plains Indians in the 17th and early 18th centuries. Unfortunately, the site was marred by a lot of more modern graffiti. Including a portrait of this man, who someone apparently didn't like and used for target practice. From there, we continued on to the arch trail, as best we could, as it was not very well marked. But we didn't mind. The landscape was pretty, and there was plenty of interesting things to see.
According to Gaia, we're back on the trail. Not going to say that we didn't add half a mile to this trail by going up the wrong spurs a few times. Then we went up the right spur, turned around, went down the wrong spur.
The right spur was the wrong spur.
Yeah.
On this hike, we never did find the arch. Of course, we weren't exactly sure what we were looking for, other than fantastic landscape and fresh air.
Beautiful.
I could go down there without falling.
Once again, with the early afternoon heat starting to rise, we headed back to camp. This hike took us 3.62 miles in 3 hours. Back in camp, we could once again see the storm clouds starting to gather, and we began to see signs of rain falling in the distance. With drama approaching from afar, there was also drama from among the nearby locals. We don't know what started it, but the ravens were really pissed off at this hawk. With the hawk chased off, the ravens drifted off on the rising air currents. And then it was time for dinner, one of my 3 favorite times of the day.
Stove because of the wind. This works. Nothing will stand between us and our cheeseburger.
We purposely made the stove easily removable from the teardrop, just for times like this when the wind is windy and our stomachs are empty. After dinner, Elizabeth noticed some movement in the grass in camp. As the evening light faded, the clouds continued to build up, and we took refuge in the Teardrop. The next morning, the winds were blowing hard enough that we decided to make coffee inside the Teardrop. Rough night. Breakfast in bed.
What's the rule? Next time the wind really starts blowing, you take the
awnings down first. Don't wait till 3 a.m.
when it's raining
when it's raining sideways. The awnings do fine in wind gusts up to 30 miles an hour. Above that, we've removed them so they don't get damaged. Unfortunately, with no cell signal, we had no way to check the weather, and were surprised just how high the winds got that night. By afternoon, the skies had cleared, and we took a stroll down the road of our camp.
We walk, chase the cows across the road. They all acted like we were out to get them. Now coming back, they're all spread out again. They don't trust us. We had to eat hamburgers 2 nights in a row, so can't say that.
Taco salad was hamburger.
3 nights in a row. Sorry.
You could be our friends.
Moo. I think it's no.
That sounds like a
Sisyphus?
Syphilis. Get down closer. Oh, no. You go. Now let me get you. You're never good.
Seagulls are right next to the track.
There you go.
Our evening stroll took us 2.4 miles. You have to take long strolls if you're going to be eating cheeseburgers and taco salads on the regular. Next day, next hike. Along the way, we found a vernal pond full of what we thought were frogs.
James Hayes, frog hunter extraordinaire.
But they turned out to be horny toads. Or more accurately, they were spadefoot toads in the middle of their breeding season. Bow chicka bow wow. The spadefoot toad has one of the fastest reproductive cycles of any amphibian. Once laid, their eggs hatch in a matter of a day or 2. The tadpoles develop into froglets within just a couple of weeks. This strategy allows them to take advantage of these temporary ponds that form so quickly in the desert after a rainstorm.
So the official signage is kind of confusing because we know that the Arch Rock Trail also goes up that way. So when you walk to the other side, you get an unofficial sign that actually tells you what you need to know.
After visiting with the frogs, we wandered up the stream bed, and then, following the ravine wall, we did finally find the arches.
Arch. It's the kind of guy that could buy some spiky boys. So I can get in without getting jabbered. Oh, looks like actually there's a path right there. Let's go down that. Arch. Damn it! Oh, it's a double arch. Arch this way, and arch this way. like a good place to stop and eat snacks.
Good place to stop.
There, we found the Wisdom Tooth Arch. You can see how it gets its name. We also found the daddy to the cute little calves that were wandering around our camp. He was hiding out from all the ladies underneath this tree. This hike took us a little over 3.3 miles in 2.5 hours, including our lunch break. And toad voyeurism. The placards at the picnic area promised us dinosaur tracks, so we set off to try to find them. After wandering around a while without finding any tracks, we did find this scaly boy. What a beauty! This collared lizard was newly shed and his colors were resplendent. Further down the road, we got to see this hairy hare. We did find some descendants of the dinosaurs, including this red-headed woodpecker. We were also harangued by a colony of cliff swallows, but that didn't stop us from setting up our tripod and videotaping their antics.
Oh yeah. The sun's getting on it.
All in all, we drove and hiked 12.5 miles. If someone knows where to find the dinosaur tracks, please drop us a line in the comments below. The next day, we took refuge from the hot sun in our shady oasis behind camp, where we were entertained by the antics of a pair of very lively lizards. These two were both fence lizards, apparently a male and a female. The female was plump and looked like she might be pregnant. These lizards are known to be territorial and solitary creatures. They are not up for hanging out. The males tried to chase others off by doing these supposedly super scary push-ups. She was not impressed. Neither wanted to give way and give up this prime bit of real estate. Soon, things escalated and the fight got physical. After the throwdown, nobody seemed injured, but they both still seemed really pissed. The male continued with his display of intimidating push-ups and flashing his scary blue belly. The female had enough and wandered off. Thanks for watching!
I don't know what they're doing.
They have the whole floor of the valley to be on, but instead they insist on walking
Up the road.
off the road and in front of us. Especially this one.
I don't think this is the smart one.
What are they doing? There you go. This little steer is like... He's good. You guys are silly.
If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and check out our other videos. And parents, please don't let your children play in the road.